Well, welcome to another live stream in the Life After J-Dub world. It's great to see you here. And for those who are going to be on the live stream, welcome. And for those who follow, it's nice that you're able to catch up. Well, today we're going to be looking at clearing up the mess that we have. We come out of the J-Dubs and we start thinking, what are we going to do? We might get so bombarded with the things that we think about, focus on. It might be so overwhelming. What are some of the steps that we can take? Well, today our guest is going to be helping us do that. So let's bring on Mandy and see how Mandy is doing today. How are you going there, Mandy?
I'm doing really well. How are you?
I'm doing great. So how's your morning started?
Oh, very slow and easy, like I like it on a Sunday.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So messed up heads. Is that a reality?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It is?
I think so. Yeah. For sure.
So how come we get so messed up?
Well, I think, I mean, when you're potentially raised in a cult or, like I've definitely refer to it as that now. There's so much black and white thinking. There's so much language that makes you think that it's either this way or it's no way. So when that's what you've been taught your whole life, and also when you leave a community like the Jehovah's Witnesses and you're shunned, you go out into the world with what feels like nothing, like no guidance, no way to know how to navigate things in a healthy way, no community. So I think, that can be really scary and really confusing.
Definitely. Did you go through that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been, completely out since I was around 20. I left, I got disfellowshipped when I was 18. And yeah. And I lived in a very small town, a small community, and my mom converted when she was pregnant with me. So one good thing that I had going for me is the rest of my family were worldly. So I did have kind of encouragement to leave from other family members, but my mom quit speaking to me for about a year, and she was my touchstone. She was my stability in the world. So I kind of went out into the world without a safety net is what it felt like. I started college, but I moved into a dorm, which is, the experience that I wanted, the normal, human experience that I wanted, but I was so messed up in the head that I just, I wasn't focused on school. I started, doing all the things that I wasn't allowed to do when I was a Jehovah's Witness, and just got myself into a lot of trouble. Kind of felt like I was spiraling, because I lost I lost my whole community, like I said. And the most important thing was that I lost my mom in that pivotal time in a human being's life when they're just trying to figure out how to be an adult. And so because of that, I ended up kind of crawling back. I went to my mom and said, I'll do whatever you want. I'll be a Jehovah's Witness, but I can't do it here in this town. So we moved. She packed up everything, quit her job, and we moved to a bigger city about 3 hours away. And she thought, oh, there'll be more witness kids her age. Like she'll have a more of a, and I did I kept my head down. I went to the meetings for 8 or 9 months. The elders turned me down the first time I tried to get reinstated because, I wasn't sorry enough or hadn't been long enough or whatever.
Yep.
And I finally got reinstated, and then pretty much immediately started to fade again, because it wasn't what I wanted. It's what she wanted. And I was trying to do it for her to make her happy. And so around age 20, I think I got disfellowship for the second and
Yep.
final time.
Yep.
And then, was still pretty, obviously, like I hadn't worked through any of that. And it's been quite a process over the last 2 decades. But
Right.
yeah, we
So if you
didn't.
just, oh, sorry, Karen.
Oh, no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So just thinking back to when you decided to go back because of your mommy,
Hmm.
how was your head at that stage? You mentioned that you did it because of her. If your head wasn't a mess with everything going up,
Hmm.
would have it turned out different?
Oh, yeah. I think, gosh, it's hard to imagine how that could have
Mm,
gone any differently,
yeah,
because my head was a mess from leaving the witnesses, but I didn't even understand what was happening at the time. I really was, it's like a tornado. I was just
yeah,
out
yeah,
in the world
yeah,
doing whatever. And there weren't support groups like this either. So I didn't have anybody to talk to that understood what I was going through. Um, so she's the only person, that the only safety net I knew to go to was her. And being with
mm.
her meant I had to be a Jehovah's Witness at that point. So I gave it a go. It didn't work.
Okay, so 20 odd years you were in it, and then you said the next 2 decades, give or take, you're out and you're still working on it.
I think there's certain things that feel like a lifelong process, just growing as a human being and
Yep.
understanding ourselves and why we think the way we do or why we do the things we do. I think for me, what really helped me early on was I've always had a passion for being creative.
Yep.
I love theater. I always wanted to act and perform in some capacity. So I majored in theater
Oh, okay.
when I finally did end up going to college.
Yep.
And I didn't have therapy at that point yet. Like I hadn't gone to therapy, but doing theater was hugely therapeutic, like putting yourself in the shoes of somebody else, like playing a part, and really trying to get into somebody else's skin. You
Yeah.
can't help but broaden your perspective and start to understand things on a deeper level, because that's the point, right? Is to try to inhabit somebody else's experience that's not your own. So I grew a lot in those years doing theater,
Hmm.
and then just started meeting people out in the world who were really cool or really insightful, or just meeting people that sort of supported my growth and helped make me see that there was another way to live, and lots of other ways to be a human that
Yeah.
were better, you know,
Yep.
and just opening my mind. And that was probably the biggest initial like catalyst for growth for
Mm,
me.
mm, mm. So if somebody was in your position and they were a lot shyer than what you are,
Hmm.
how would they sort of start working on the mess that they've got going on in their head with the turmoil? I think you used the word tornado, with getting out, and they've still got the thinking here and they're going to try and go that way. And
Right.
what can they do if they're really shy?
I think that if you're more introverted uh, and maybe people aren't going to be the option for you, or just, I think books were also a big source of help for me,
Okay.
just reading about different philosophies of thinking. And, I got to take some classes in college that were just literature classes or philosophy classes. Like I read books about Buddhism. I think just sort of doing some of the things that we're told our whole lives that we're not supposed to do, which is like seeking education, seeking information.
Yeah.
There's and now, that was the very beginning of the internet when I started college, but now like there's so many resources out there. So there's groups like yours, and like there are people out there that are like offering guidance and help, and I think just seeking that out, just educating yourself the way that we were told we're not supposed to. That's what you should do.
Was that weird when you started doing all that?
It was at the time. I mean, I do remember when I left, I didn't leave because I had an epiphany that it wasn't true. I left because I didn't have any other choice. Like I thought, I'm just bad. I can't live this way. I thought it was, I still believed it. I just thought I was bad. And that's what I'd like to help people avoid, is that sort of, I was acting out as if I was bad, as if I'd had no worth. And that's the stuff that created its own trauma, all of the things that I did in the aftermath of leaving the Witnesses that I've had to work through. And I think the quicker that people can understand that there's nothing wrong with them, but there's lingering doubts, and was the hardest part for me. Like, I mean, the Witnesses do a pretty great job of brainwashing people and making them feel like the longer you're out in the world, the harder it is to come back. The tighter Satan's grip is. So I remember I had a lot of fear initially around those thoughts of, oh my God, like maybe this isn't the truth. And then I was like, like, oh my God, like I had to kind of push through that initial fear. And you kind of just have to, there's no avoiding uncomfortable feelings, right? Like you have to move through them, and you will get to the other side of them. So it's just not avoiding the hard work of feeling all of the feelings. You can numb and you can push things off, but you have to deal with it eventually. So the sooner the better, really.
Yeah. Because you would definitely say, from your experience, from what you've learned now, the sooner you get onto that, the better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we can inflict a lot of damage upon ourselves when we're in denial or just trying to avoid feeling all of the bad feelings that come with. And I think that's part of why the people that are afraid to leave, they're afraid of what they know they're going to have to face, which is, losing people, losing community, being shunned by your family. Like that's really, really hard. And it's sometimes hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But there is one, and it's so much brighter than this, like, whatever little, what you have when you're a Jehovah's Witness is so conditional, and it's not what real love is. And there's so much more to experience out in the world. And there's so much love to be had and relationships to be built that aren't contingent on you believing some dogma.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So let's put it this way. What would a first good step be to start sorting out the mess that we've got going on in our head?
Journaling, like writing it all down. Just sitting with yourself and saying, okay, there's a lot going on in my head. I'm confused about a lot of things, and just writing it all down. I think getting into therapy as soon as you possibly can, and finding an somebody that you can really talk to, and just to start to lay it all out so you can see it. When it's out of your head, then it's easier to deal with.
Okay. Can I just go back to the journaling for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned write it all out. Mm-hmm. Write what?
Anything. It's stream of consciousness. Like sit down with your computer or with a notebook, whatever time you can find that's a space that's yours, if it's early in the morning, if it's late at night, like whenever you feel like you can just ground in and just write down whatever it is you're feeling, whatever it is you're thinking. There's no formula to it. It's just getting what's in your head out onto paper, and then you can work with that.
Okay. Now, you mentioned therapy. You said it's a good thing. Did you ever go through a stage where you didn't quite like the therapist you were with?
Yeah, that's the tricky part, and access is sometimes an issue for people. Like, it's easy to say go to therapy, but maybe you don't have insurance, maybe the insurance you have doesn't get you the quality of therapy that you would like. I've been faced with that before. Maybe you get assigned a therapist that you don't resonate with, or that you don't feel like really understands what you're going through. So that's the tricky part. I've not always been in a position to have access to therapy. So I think if that's not an option for you, then go online and watch. Like, I've found Lloyd Evans videos on YouTube to be really helpful, just in terms of understanding. Like, he obviously does a really good job of going in and like debunking like everything that the Jehovah's Witnesses come out with and say, and then finding a group like yours on Facebook and connecting with other people who understand what you've gone through, and reaching out in that way. So going to therapy it's all really about just reaching out for help, not feeling like you have to do it all on your own. And I think if you put that intention out there, you will find the help that you need,
Yeah. And when we were talking before we came online, there's so many now that in the therapy side of things, I think of Bonnie Zeman's books. You've got Jonah Ross in the UK, Becky Armstrong in the UK. There's so many different ones that are out there now that we can find different ones who we don't have to explain the JW teachings.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I do a lot of content on TikTok, and I do a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witness content there. And I've had people reach out to me through direct messages who have like secret accounts on there, who have reached out to me and said, I'm not out, but I want to get out. Have just connected with me because of their experience. And I think there's so many different platforms now, and there's so many people out there that are creating content that are ex-witnesses. And so I think there's several ways to find support. And like, personally, the books, Brene Brown, she's a shame researcher, and she's a professor in Texas. Yeah. She writes books that sort of merge. She's a social scientist, so she studies shame and breaks it down. And I think there's so much guilt and shame that people carry with them when they come out of a high control religion. And that's been incredibly helpful for me. So I've read all her books.
Great. So just explain to us what you mean by shame and guilt.
Well, I think the guilt it comes early. Like, it comes on, for me personally. I was a really extroverted kid. I wanted to do all the things. I wanted to participate in everything, and and my mom, she would try to, I was pretty persistent. So she would try to let me do some things, but she always got a lot of pushback from the congregation. Anytime she let me do something that they didn't think was appropriate. And so I just started, it was tough for her. I have a lot of empathy for her situation too, because she was trying to be a good witness. And then she had this little girl who was just wanted to do everything. But I started feeling bad. I started feeling like who I was not okay. So that guilt starts early and young, and you don't necessarily even understand it when, like, why do I feel guilty for everything? Like why do I feel
Yeah.
like I'm bad? Like those are
Yeah.
the thoughts that I have to like hone in on. And sometimes it creeps up on you even now, because it's ingrained so early. Like those neurological pathways are being formed. And when you think all these normal things that I want to do, I'm being told are wrong and bad. So I must be wrong and bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think you go out into the world and you're out, but that's still there. That's stuff you have to figure out and investigate. So understanding, like, she goes into the like physical manifestations of shame, and how shame and guilt are different. And I just think it's really, really valuable to understand that component, that part, that piece of the puzzle.
Yeah. Is any one of her books your favorite one?
Well, they really work in chronological order together,
Okay.
because
Yep.
in her research has grown. So the first one I read was called The Gifts of Imperfection. And then
Okay.
she has one called Daring Greatly and Rising Strong. So they sort of build on each other. And any of them individually are wonderful, but I definitely read them in order. And yeah, they're pretty amazing.
What I'll get you to do is maybe later on you can send me a link and we'll put it up in
Yeah,
the comment
absolutely.
area, because that sounds a good resource to be able to get hold of.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely.
It's like the YouTube channels that are out there. There's some like one particular guy and others don't like him, or females, they don't like them, or so everybody's got a different flavor of person that they like.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to find somebody that resonates with
Yeah.
you.
Was that an issue with you? I know we talked about therapy and trying to pick the right one. Have you ever had any issues with that sort of thinking?
Yeah, I remember I went to therapy when I was in my late 20s, and it was the place I went was great, but the person they assigned to me was, I think she
Yeah.
was a grad student or something. Like I knew she
Oh,
was
okay.
young. I knew she was younger than me, and it's not
Yeah.
that she wasn't smart, but it was kind of like, yeah, I don't know that you have the life experience
Yeah.
to help me. And I'm always going to, a lot of therapy for me is about dealing with my mom, like my
Okay. Yeah.
lifelong journey of trying to like figure out a relationship with my mom, who's still
Yeah.
very much a witness. So it never ends. It's not like, oh, now I have it all figured out and life will be
Uh-huh.
smooth and wonderful forever. It's like, that's never it. It's
No.
like, let me try this boundary with my mom, see how that works.
So do you still get to do you still get to talk to her at all? Or has
I
she just
do. So my
oh, okay.
mom, that's a long, I won't get too much into it, but she ended up being disfellowshipped for a while. She never quit believing. So she talk about low self-esteem and shame. Like she sit in the back and felt really bad about herself, but and that was all because of a relationship. But when she got reinstated, I think that it humbled her enough. And also I had a son. I had my son when I was 27, and she worships him. So she knows
okay.
that to be connected to him, she has to be connected to me.
So as the
So
way it should be.
exactly. And there's definitely, I'd say, an emotional wall between us. Like I would love for us to be closer, but there's only so close that we can be,
Yeah.
because I hold my tongue a lot, because I also know that if she deemed me apostate, she probably would stop talking to me. So that's sort of the struggle, is how much do you say? There's just a lot of things that we don't talk about. That's how that
Yeah.
goes. And my son's going to be 16 next month, so he's going
Nice.
to, yeah. And actually, interestingly enough, my son has a therapist, and we just had a session with his therapist talking about my mom. Because
Oh, really?
because Jude, my kid, is very, very smart. He's a
Yep.
proclaimed kind of agnostic. He's very scientific. He thinks about things very deeply. So smart. So we talk about religion. We talk about my mom and what she believes, because she's always tried to subtly indoctrinate him, because she thinks that's what she's supposed to do. So she'll
Mm.
send him little jw.org articles that are about science, like, oh, isn't this interesting?
Yep.
Because she thinks it's science related, so he would like it. But of course, we all know where those all lead to.
Yes. Yes.
And he's like, he doesn't even read them anymore or respond. But so
Good for
he's
him.
even now having to figure out how he wants to navigate his relationship with her, So yeah, it's I'm grateful that he's as intelligent and as thoughtful as he is, but it's, even for him, it's a challenge.
Yeah. Well, it's great that he's going to therapy to help him untangle the little things that get in our heads and things
Mhm.
like that. So well done, Mum.
Thanks.
It's nice to hear that you two have a real close relationship, that you can do that sort of thing.
Well, I think having the experience that I had growing up, and having
Yeah.
a parent that rejected me because I didn't want to live the same life
Hmm.
that she did, I would never. I know how painful that is, and I can't even imagine ever doing that to my own kid. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
important to me that he feels supported all the time.
Great.
Mhm.
Great. So say if there is somebody who they are being shunned by their parents, what would you say could be a good way to start working on that mess that they're going through at the moment?
It's so hard. Um,
Mhm.
I think the it's the worst. It's the worst pain to feel like you're being rejected by the people that are supposed to love you unconditionally. You know, I
Yeah.
think the most important thing is to recognize that it's about them. It's not about you. It's their problem. It's not your problem. And
Yep.
you can intellectually understand that. That doesn't change how painful it is. So again, as hard as it is, it's just a matter of letting yourself feel that and grieve the loss of that, because it is like a death. It is
Yep.
and there's no getting around how painful that is.
Yeah.
But then it becomes a matter of finding people that do love you and accept you for who you are. So you have to find essentially a new family, a different kind of family of your choosing,
Yeah.
of people that, are going to be there for you no matter what. Because we need that, we need community and we need
Yep.
support. Yeah.
Definitely. So once you've started to grieve and work out what you've mentioned,
Hmm.
it's not us that's got the problem, it's the ones who are shunning us
Hmm.
that have. What would the next step, or what could the next step be?
Well, I think just through living a life, if you're in school or you have a job, it's really
Yeah.
just um, making connections and finding friends to just finding that support. And in terms of, like we said, with ex Jehovah's Witness community, I think it's reaching out into these communities as well, and talking about how you feel, just moving through it and taking it one day at a time, and understanding that some days you're probably going to feel really sad,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and because there's no magic pill, it's like you want to just make all the bad feelings go away. And that's why a lot of people, and I'm sure I know I struggled with alcohol and drug abuse in my 20s because I was trying to numb and just keep. And I didn't let myself, I did in moments, but I definitely had a lot of times where I was just trying to avoid all the things and just, and you can only do that up to a point and it will all catch up with you. So if you can avoid that trap, I would highly recommend it. So it's just a matter of doing the grieving, feeling the bad feelings, talking to people, like finding, even if you have one friend, like if you have a job and you connect with one person, that's one person that's in your corner, and it takes time. You're not going to like overnight find this amazing like community. Like it's, you have to, it takes time. And so it's just giving yourself that space and time and just knowing that you're gonna get there. That was something that I'm grateful that I always had. I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. I knew, I was like, I know I'm kind of fucked up right now. Like, hope it's okay to say.
As you go for it, mate.
I said it. I knew I was messed up, but I also knew that that I could get there. And I think if you just can know that, then you can be okay with the process, like, because you know that you can get there. And you're not ever going to, I don't think you're ever going to get to this like state of blissful, I'm happy all the time. Like, that's just not being a human. That's just not, nobody is, but you can, day by day, start to understand and figure out, just figure yourself out. And the more that you understand that you were indoctrinated and that you were like, all of that is not real. I don't know. The more that crystallizes in your brain, the easier it is to sort of, get rid of those lingering Jehovah's Witness beliefs or thoughts. It just takes time. It just takes time and patience with yourself.
So are you saying that you had to give yourself permission to do all that? I say that because when you're a JW, you weren't meant to talk to worldly people. You weren't meant to look on the net. You weren't meant to, and a whole list of things. So are you saying we are allowed to do that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Really?
We are. Yeah. But you do have to give yourself permission. And it may be one thing at a time, like maybe you're not comfortable. Some people probably aren't initially comfortable even getting into an ex-Jehovah's Witness group because that fear of being an apostate is so real.
Yep.
And you kind of have to get over that. I've had to get over the fact that there is a possibility that one day my mom might see my TikToks. She might, I doubt it, because that's the one, Jehovah's Witnesses, like, they're not seeking out any of that stuff. But if she became aware of it, I would own it. It's more important to me at this point in my life to talk about it because I feel like I have the ability to help other people. That feels more important than trying to censor myself all the time because my mom might see it, But I had to get over that. That was the hump that I had to get over before I started putting myself out there,
How long did that take you? If you were to put a time limit on from going, oh, no, I can't do that, to, oh, well, if she sees it.
Well, I just started. I mean, gosh, TikTok is a pretty new platform. So I only got on there probably at the beginning of the pandemic. So 20 plus years. But also that wasn't, I've talked about it. My whole, that was in the beginning, it was really helpful to talk about. And that's one thing I should bring up because when I did start making friends that I trusted, I always talked about my experience being a Jehovah's Witness because I couldn't not talk about it. It felt so integral to them understanding who I was. So if people find themselves keeping it a big secret, going out into the world and trying to like ignore the fact that they were a Jehovah's Witness and not talking about it, I think that that could be a mistake because then you're just holding it all in, and then that in and of itself can become shameful. Like you don't want people to know. And I've possibly overshared. I don't know sometimes, but I also think it can be really helpful to talk if you have somebody that wants to know, because typically when you say, yeah, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness, people are like, you were?
Yeah.
Like, whoa. Well, they're interested.
They are interested. You're right.
And I think that's therapeutic. Talking about it is therapeutic.
Yeah. It's got to come out, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. You really can't hold it in.
Yeah. But like what Stella said with regards to her YouTube, she decided to send a link to her father to face her fear. So
Yeah.
we've got to do it. We've definitely got to do it.
Yeah.
So 20 odd years to get over that lump. Okay.
Well, yeah, hopefully it doesn't take other people that long. I think I've thought about this if I had been shunned completely by her for the past 20 years, I probably would have done it a lot sooner. I think the fact that we do have a relationship, I have a fear of, there's always going to be a fear of losing it.
Yeah.
Because obviously I love my mom, and I wish more than anything in the world that she would wake up and leave. I don't see that happening for her, and it is what it is, right? That's one of those things I can't fix.
Nope. No control on that one.
No. Yeah. I don't know if she could psychologically handle waking up. I don't know that her brain could deal with that at this point in her life.
Yeah. There's a lot of that going on in and around the world.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So looking back on your journey, because you do a little bit of NLP and things like that, don't you?
Yeah, I'm working on it.
You're working on it. How do you find that for yourself? Don't worry about anybody else, but have you found some of the things with NLP to be helpful to work on this little bird's nest in the head?
Yeah, and it's been, I wish I had it when I was 20 years old, because it's been really nice to study that and see like, oh yeah, I've done that. I didn't know to call it that, but I've definitely implemented a lot of these things just through trial and error in my life. And so, it's nice to be like, I've come really far. I've come a long way. And I'm so grateful that these resources exist now, because I see these young kids coming out now and they have all this just fresh trauma, all of it. And there's actually like, there's work that like Jonam is doing, and there's so much out there now to help people along. And I'm just so glad. I'm so glad.
If somebody thought about doing that, would you encourage them to do it for themselves?
Oh, absolutely. I think any choice you make that is invested in your growth and you getting to know yourself better is a good one. Anything that you're like, any choice that you're making that's investing in you in a healthy way, absolutely do it. Yeah, because you can't really do anything else in the world meaningful until you figure out your own stuff. You can't really help other people. Well, maybe you can in small ways, but I don't think you can really meaningfully help anyone unless you've helped yourself first.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So, okay, so looking at the messes that we've all got, to different degrees, they minimize. Will they ever be out of our head?
I mean, hopefully they'll be out of our head in terms of controlling our thoughts, or controlling our experience. We're never
Yeah.
going to forget. It's always going to be a part of us and a part of what's made us into who we are now. And that can be a really good thing, because I believe the people that have gone through something really difficult and really challenging and come out on the other side of it always have something to offer, always. And so that's really valuable. In that way, you get to turn something that was really hard and really negative into something really positive and beautiful, and that gives you control. I think I've always felt like it's really important to not be a victim, to not feel like a victim, because there's no power in that. Which Stella just said, manageable. So it's manageable in that it's there, it's always going to be there. But I think when you can flip it on its head almost and say, I'm going to take this thing that happened to me that wasn't my fault, I didn't deserve it, but I'm not going to be a victim. I'm not going to sit around blaming everybody for well, I do all these people that behave badly and make excuses and say, well, this happened to me, and so therefore I can't help it that I'm a bad person, or I can't help it that I go out in the world and I hurt people because I was hurt. Because hurt people. So if you can heal that, then you have an opportunity to take what happened to you and use it to go and do good. And I mean, I don't think there's anything better than that. And I don't think there's anything more healing than that. So that's been my experience.
Okay, cool. So when you see somebody, there's two things we can either do, respond or react. Mm-hmm. If somebody reacts badly, mm-hmm. what do we need to keep in mind for them? We might post something on one of the media, what do you call them, Facebook and mm-hmm. social media, and somebody reacts badly. Mm-hmm. Do we take that personally?
No, because that's never about you. That's always about them. If somebody gets triggered by something that you said and they react negatively, well, then that's because it affected them in some way. It has something to do with what's going on with them, and they're reacting to you, but it's not about you. Right? So that's why, when people get in arguments on Facebook, be it religious or political, it's kind of pointless and meaningless, especially when it's two strangers. They're all just responding because of whatever they're going through, and they're using that other person as a sounding board, but it's not ever about that other person. It's always about them. So I think learning how to have empathy for those people, but also boundaries with those people, I'm not going to engage with you in that way, because that's not healthy for me. And you don't have to have any negative feelings towards them, but you also don't have to engage with them.
Yep. So just taking it one step further. Mm-hmm. So we've posted something, they've come back to us. What happens if we react? Does that mean we've still got some sort of issue that's messing our thinking up that we need to deal with?
I mean, probably. Nobody's perfect. I mean, on any given day, you might feel a little more testy. You might be we all can feed on that in different ways. It doesn't mean that you've not done a lot of work on yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not growing. But yeah, if you let yourself engage in that, that probably means that there's a little something there. Or maybe it's a topic you feel really passionate about, or maybe you're just really frustrated with something that's going on in your life. We all have the capability of doing that, from time to time. Yeah. And nobody's perfect.
Yeah, Loretta's just come up. She says, I've been out for almost 4 years now, but the only ones I missed is some of the younger people. And when I go out shopping or eating, I run into them, and it makes me feel a little guilty when I see them out and about. Is that normal? I mean, it feels uncomfortable running into them. So is that normal?
I think so. I mean, just a couple of years ago, I was in a grocery store.
Yep.
And I saw a girl that I was really good friends with back in the day. And I saw her, we made eye contact, and my natural reaction was I went to almost like I was going to say hello. And then I saw that she was not going to speak to me. She averted her eyes, and
Yep.
my stomach dropped. I felt
Yes.
that whole feeling of what do you even call that? I mean, it was just uncomfortable. It just made me, it made me really sad, because you're just living, especially when you're just out there in the world, living your normal life, not thinking about the fact that you used to be a Jehovah's Witness. And then you see this person that just brings you back just like that.
Yep.
And you're like, instantly. And you're like, I can't even have a normal interaction with this person in the grocery store. We obviously know each other very well. And you're going to pretend like I don't even exist. That feels horrible. There's no way that that's not going to feel bad. I remember another time, this was when I was very newly out. I worked in a coffee shop, and this elder and his wife came up to the counter. It was a it was a bookstore. And they're two small girls. Well, the girls remembered me, and they stood there. They all just stood there, like looking at the menu, and the girls like saw me, but didn't say anything. And then they all turned around and they left, and they didn't order anything. And of course that made me feel awful, because when people treat you like you don't exist or you don't matter, it is gonna trigger those feelings, and that's not fair to you. And honestly, it's sad for them, because that's the world that they're living in, and it doesn't have anything to do with you again. But it feels very personal, and I don't know that there's a way to make that not feel bad, because it's wrong and it should feel bad.
Would therapy, NLP, or hypnotherapy, or any of the tools that we now have around us be of help?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like, we need to reach out for help and find something that makes us be able to understand that more, because even when that happens and it feels really bad, you can sit with it, and then later on maybe have a deeper, better understanding of it, and maybe even learn to have empathy and for that person who did that, because they're still stuck in that world and you're not. It's sad for them. I think about all of the people I grew up with that don't know my son. And how sad that is for them, that they don't get to be a part of my life and my son's life. And I miss a lot of people. And I get sad about that sometimes, but you couldn't pay me all the money in the world to go back to that world.
Yep. I agree with that. The people in there's some beautiful, beautiful people. It's just, they got the blinkers on.
Yeah.
And a very narrow blinker at that.
I know. And it's just, you're missing out on so much. And, living your life for this hope of this world that's to come, and completely being a observer almost of your life right now. That's like, this is the life that we have. That's what I get the most, more than angry anymore. I feel sad for those people. I do.
So you mentioned before that all the money in the world wouldn't make you go back. What if somebody was, with the things that are going on in our heads, they're thinking, maybe I should go back? What could be some of the questions we could ask ourselves?
If somebody has the thought, why should I go back?
And maybe
I should go back. I guess. Okay. So another I've done there's this podcast I started listening to, and she does a lot of what she calls thought work. And it's sort of understanding that our thoughts are not true. Our thoughts are just sentences in our brain, and we give them meaning. Like our thoughts create emotions. Yeah. So if you have the thought, maybe I should go back, stop and say, why am I thinking that? Like, what is the emotion that is connected to that thought? It's probably fear. And what is that fear is? What is the fear? It's the fear of this unknown of what if, and I had those thoughts all the time. What if it is true? What if Armageddon comes and I get destroyed? And they were right all along. Like, and then just sort of trying to dissect the thought and see, if you can figure out why you're having that thought. And realize that it's just probably latent fear of this unknown thing that nobody can really know. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, well, if then, sayonara at Armageddon, like whatever, I'm going to, I don't believe that at all, but you know what I mean? Like, I think you just have to try to continue to do that. Like, it's like, you have to just keep doing all the things, like, or journal about that thought, like, I'm having this thought right now. I'm feeling this way. And just don't let one thought spiral you into doing something that's going to like take you 10 steps back into a world where you're not happy. That's all. That's the only advice I really have about that, I think.
No, that's great. And everybody's different, like we talked about. We handle things different. We process things differently. We react or respond differently.
Yeah. I think the more work we do on ourselves and the more understanding we have, it also, it's going to, even if you weren't an ex-Jehovah's Witness, like, that is going to only help you have better relationships. It's going to help you understand yourself. The more we repress feelings and thoughts, the more we lash out and we don't know why, so it's really these are all just tools so we can understand ourselves better and have a better experience in the world and have better relationships and, just be happier. It's only going to create positive change.
Yeah. What was that podcast you were talking about? Can you remember the name of it?
Well, there's a cuss word in the name of it because it's called Unfuck Your Brain.
I have heard of that before.
Yeah. Her name is Cara Lowenthal, and she was a lawyer, and now she's like a feminist life coach, but she's so smart. And she it's called Thought Work. So she sort of talks about that, like how there's a circumstance, and that's always neutral. Like, whatever happened, like, I got an email from my boss, and then the thought you have about the circumstance creates the emotion that then leads to an action. So the more you can break that down, it's just this other tool so we can try to understand and our thoughts and how we can sort of be more in the driver's seat, when those moments happen.
Is she still doing the podcast?
Oh yeah. I can send you a link to that as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. I have heard of that. Does she have a book? I seem to remember she may.
Think she has a book yet. I wouldn't be surprised if she writes one at some point, but I haven't heard of a book yet from her.
Okay. So it'd be definitely worth having a listen. If we, would you recommend people have a listen on that one?
Yeah, if you're comfortable with curse words.
Does she use them quite often? Does she?
Not like all the time, not like every sentence, but yeah, she might throw in a F-bomb here or there. Just in, she's not censoring herself by any means, and but she's very intelligent and smart. Like.
Well, she doesn't need to. We've got to be our real selves.
Yeah, like that's what I mean. She's very much being authentic And I think
Yep.
that's to me where I resonate with is when I feel like somebody's being really authentic.
Yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah.
We're no longer controlled by an organization that wants to control us.
Yeah. Well, and that also brings up the topic of like when you say just be yourself, when you first come out, you might not know who that is.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and these are the tools to help you figure that out. I
Yeah,
think when all your thoughts and feelings have been repressed for so long, you may come out of it and be like, I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to do.
yeah,
I
yeah,
I tried. I remember in my early 20s trying to find an identity, like I'm going to be a part of this group for a while and see how that feels, or I'm going to try to mold myself to be like these people. And I think that's a natural sort of exploration because
yeah,
when you've not been given the freedom to do that as a teenager, which is like these very formative years when you're kind of supposed to be finding out like what your interests are and what you like,
mm,
that takes some time. So that's why you need all these tools so you can kind of like figure out who you are and how you can be authentic in the world, because you may not know how to do it at first.
yep. That's very, very true. So, sink or swim, or do we just put our toe in?
You swim. And you like watch videos on how to swim as you're swimming.
It's a good illustration, actually, because it's right. We don't know ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We have diddly squat of an idea of what we are really like,
Mm-hmm.
because we no longer get taught what we think, what we need to say, how we need to act, what we need to wear, how we have our hair, how long our dresses. Oh, I don't wear dresses, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah.
Uh,
Oh my gosh, all of that. All of that.
and that's all a big mess in our heads.
A huge, huge.
So,
Yeah.
well, this has been very enlightening.
Oh, good. I've really enjoyed it too.
No, we want to say thank you for coming on, Mandy. Now, if somebody would like to touch base with you because they loved how you spoke and your bubbliness and your smiley face, what's the best way to contact you? We can put your contact in the Life After group, but for those ones who are on YouTube, how could those ones be able to make contact with you?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm just Mandy Lawson on Facebook. On Instagram, my handle is Mandican, MandiCan. And then I'm on
Mandy
TikTok.
Can.
If you're on TikTok, I make a lot of different kinds of content, just like whatever I want to do. But I do a lot of ex Jehovah's Witness content as well. And I'm at Mandy Lawson on TikTok as well.
Okay. What's Mandy Can?
Well,
Am I allowed to ask that question?
Yeah, I used to sing with this band when I was in my 20s.
Oh,
and
okay, yeah.
The lead singer of this band would call me Man Candy, which is maybe not the most appropriate thing now that I'm older. I'm like, maybe that was a little misogynistic. I don't know. But I don't know. It switched. There was like Mandy Candy and then Mandy Can. And I liked I was like, Mandy can do whatever she wants.
Absolutely.
Mandy can. I don't know. It just kind of stuck. It's been my handle for I don't know, however long Instagram's been out.
Yeah. No, I'm not on Instagram. I've got too many other things to do.
It's hard to keep up with too many. I'm not on Facebook as much anymore because I'm on TikTok has become sort of my social media home because there's so much ex Jehovah's Witness content on there. So many people telling their story, so many people sharing. So I think that's a really great place for especially newly ex Jehovah's Witnesses to go there, and Facebook in terms of the group support on Facebook, but then just like individuals out there like sharing their story. TikTok is a really great resource.
Well, thank you once again for coming on and helping us to look at the aspect of the mess in our head. You gave some very practical suggestions, and a lot of those came from personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So we're very grateful for sharing. For those who've been on our live stream, thank you for being here. It's nice to have you. We hope you enjoyed the stream today. For those who are going to watch it later, if you want to reach out to Mandy, those are the details you can. You can leave comments on the YouTube or Twitter or in our Facebook group. And we hope to see you again. Until our next live stream, we look forward to catching up again. Please keep safe and enjoy your life. And until then, we'll catch you later. Thanks for that. Bye for now.